I reverence Bhagwan Shankara, the progeny of the Brahma, the very root of the three. Sri Ram Om Sri Ram Charitmanas, the Mansar lake containing the exploit of Sri Rama, descent 3 Aranya Kand. I reverence Bhagwan Shankara, the progeny of the Brahma, the very root of the three of the piety, the beloved devoted of the King Sri Rama, the full moon that brings joy to the ocean of the wisdom, the sun that opens the lotus of the dispassion, the wind that disperses the clouds of the ignorance, who dispels the thick darkness of the sin and eradicates the threefold agony, and who wipe off obliquity. I worship Sri Rama, the delighter of all, whose graceful form is embodiment of the joy and is dark as a rainy cloud, who is clad in the charming yellow bark and carries in his hand a bow and the arrow, who has a beautiful, shining and well-equipped quiver fastened to his vest and has a pair of large lotus eyes, who is adorned with the tuft of the matted locks on his head, and who is seen joining with Sita and Lakshmana. Sri Rama's virtue, Uma Parvati, are mysterious. The sages as well as learned men develop this patience and they appreciate them, while the deluded fools who are hostile to Sri Hari and have no love to the piety get bewildered to hear of them. I have portrayed the best of my ability the incomparable and charming affection to Sri Rama of the citizen of Ayodhya as well as his Bharata. Now hear of all the holy exploit of the Lord that he wrought in the forest to the delight of the gods, men and the sages. On one occasion, Sri Rama culled lovely flowers and made with his own hands a number of ornaments which fondly decked Sita's and sat with her on the beautiful rock of the crystal. A foolish son of the Indra, the lord of Celestial, took the form of the crows and wanted to test the might of the Sri Rama, the lord of Raghus, even as the most dull-witted ant would sound the depth of the ocean. The stupid fool who has distinguished himself as a crow with his sinister motives bit Sita in his foot with his beaks and flew away. The lord of Raghu came to know it only when blood rained from her foot and fitted a shaft of reed of his bow. The Lord who extremely compassionate and always fond of the meek, but the mischievous fools came and played a trick even with them. Winged with the spells of the shaft presided over, the Brahmans spat forth, and the crow in terror took to the flight. Indra's sons now assured his own form and approached his father, but the latter refused to give him shelter, knowing him to be an enemy of the Sri Rama. Having last hopes of protection, he felt as alarmed as a heart as the sage Durvasa was afraid of the Lord discussed. Weary and stricken with fear and grief, he traversed to the abode of the Brahma. The realm of the Lord Shivas and the other regions was no one even asked him to sit down. Who can dare afford shelter to an enemy of the Sri Rama? Listen, Garuda, mount of the Sri Hari. A mother becomes as terrible as death, and a father assumes the role of the Yama, the god of the death. And Bolshia turns into the Brahmins, and the friends become as hostile as 100 enemies. The celestial Ganga is converted into the Veterani. Nay, the whole world becomes hotter than the fire to him who is inimical to the Sri Rama. Singh Narada saw Jayanta, Indra's sons, in distress and was moved with piety, for saints are always tender of heart. The Sikh sent him immediately to Sri Rama, and he cried, "Save me, O friend of the suppliant." Bewildered and terrified, he went and clasped his feet and said, "Mercy, mercy, O gracious Lord of the Raghu! I could not perceive your incomparable might and matchless glory. Dull-witted as I am, I have reaped the fruit borne by my own actions and have no sought refuge in you. Protect me, my Lord." When the all-merciful Lord heard this most piteous appeals, he let him go with the loss of one eye, O Parvati. Out of folly, Jayanta has committed offence against the Lords and therefore deserves death. The latter took compassion to him and let him go. Who is there so merciful as the hero of Raghuline? Staying at Chitrakoot, the Lord of Raghu performed exploits of many kinds, which are sweet to ear as nectar. Sri Rama then thought to himself, people will throng here now, and everyone has come to know me. Taking leave of all the hermits, therefore, the two brothers Sri Rama and Lakshmana left the place with Sita. When the Lord repaired to Atri's hermitage, the great sage was rejoiced at the news. Thrilling all over with joy, Atri sprang up and ran to meet him. And seeing him come, Sri Rama too advanced hurriedly towards him. Even as the two brothers protested themselves, the sage lifted them and, clasping them to his bosom, bathed them with the tears of love. His eyes were gladdened by the sight of Sri Rama's beauty, and then he reverently escorted them to his hermitage. Paying his homage to the Lord, he spoke kind words to him and offered him roots and the fruits which he relished much. As the Lord took his seat, Atri, the chief of Sikhs, supremely wise as he was, fastened his eyes on his loveliness and joining his palm proceeded to extol him. I reverence you who are so fond of your devotee, compassionate and gentle of disposition. I adore your lotus feet, which vouchsafe to your selfless lovers a quarter in your own abode. You are possessed of an exquisitely beautiful swarthy form. You are Mount Mandara, as it were, to churn the ocean of the mundane existence. You have eyes like the full-blown lotuses, rid your votaries of pride and other vices. Immense in the might of your long arms and immeasurable your glory, to carry on your person a quiver, a bow, and an arrow. O Lord of the three worlds, the ornament of the solar race, you broke the bow of the great Lord Shiva, delighting the greatest sages and saints. You crushed the host of demons, the enemies of the gods. You are an object of reverence to the Lord Shiva and are adored by Brahma and other divinities, the fountain of joy and the salvation of the saints. I adore you with your spouse Sita and younger brother Lakshmana, yourself a beloved younger brother of Indra, Sachi's lords. Men who worship the sole of your feet and are free from the jealousy sink not into the ocean of the metamorphosis, prevalent which the billions of wrangling. They who living in as seclusions constantly worship you with their senses and minds etc., fully subdued for the sake of attaining liberations, are able to realize their own self. I adore him, the mysterious Lord, who is one without a second, desireless, all powerful and omnipresent, the teacher of the words, eternal, transgetting the three gunas, sattva, rasa, and tamsa, and absolute self existence. I adore him who is fond of devotion, who is most difficult of access to sensually minded strivers, but who is every shielding tree to his own devotee, nay, who is impartial and so easy to worship from day to day. I bow to Sita's lords, King Rama of the matchless beauty. I reverence you. Be gracious to me and grant me devotion to your lotus feet. Men who recite this hymn with reverence undoubtedly attain your abode, acquiring devotion to your feet at the same time. Having prayed thus, the Sikhs bowed his head and joining his palms spoke again, My mind, O Lord, may never abandon your lotus feet. Then Sita, who was so good-natured and the modest, met Ansuya, Atri's wives, and clasped her feet. The Sikh's wife felt extremely pleased at heart. She blessed her and, seeing her by her sides, arrayed her in heavenly robes and the ornaments that remains even new, clean and charming. In affectionate and the mild tones, the holy lady then proceeded to discourse of some wifely virtues, making her an occasion for such discourse. Listen, O princess, a mother, father, and brother are all kind, that they bestow unlimited joy. A husband, however, bestows unlimited joy in the form of the blessedness. O Videha's daughter, vile is the woman who refused to serve him, fortitude, piety, a friend, and the wife. These words are put into the test only in the times of the adversity. A woman who treats her husband with disrespect, even though he is old, skilled, sick, dull headed, indigent, blind, deaf, wrathful, or most wretched, shall suffer various torments in hell, the abode of the Yama. Devotion to the body, speech, and mind to her Lord's feet is the only duty. Screwed woes and the penis of a woman. There are four types of faithful wives in this world. So declare the Vedas, the Puranas, all saints. A woman of the best type is convinced in her heart that she cannot even dream in the world of man other than her lords. The middling regards another's husband as her own brother, father, or son according to his age. She who is restrained by the consideration of the virtue or by the thought of her race is declared by the Vedas as low woman, and know her to be a lowest woman in this world, who is restrained only by the fear and want of opportunity. The woman who deceives her husbands and loves a paramour is cast for the 100 cycles into the worst form of the hell, known by the name of the Ravarna, who is so depraved as the woman who is the sake of the moment pleasure reckons not the torments that shall endure for 1,000 millions of births. The woman who sincerely take a vow of fidelity to her husband easily attains the highest estate, while she who is destroyed to her Lord is widowed as soon as she attains her youth, whatever she may be reborn, whenever shape. whenever she may be reborn. A woman is impure by her very birth, but shall she attain the happy states by nurturing serving her Lord. It is due to her loyalty to her husband. Tulsi is loved by the Hari even to this day, and her glory sung by the all four Vedas. Listen, Sita's women all maintain their vow of the fidelity to their husbands by invoking your very name, Sri Rama, being dear to you as your own life. It is for the good of the world that I have spoken to you on the subject. Janaka's daughter Sita was overjoyed to hear this discourse and reverently bowed her head at the feet of the Ansuya. The All Merciful then said to the sages, with your permissions, I would go to some other forest. Continue to shower your grace on me, and knowing me to be your servants, never cease loving me. Hearing these words, the lords, who are champions of virtue, enlightened sages lovingly replied, you are the same Rama, the supreme deity, the beloved of the desireless, and the friends of the meek, whose favor is sought by the Brahma, the unborn, Lord Shiva, the Sheikh Shankara, and all other preachers, knowers of the highest reality, and yet you are addressing such polite word to me. I now understand the wisdom of she goddess Lakshmi, who chose you as her lord to the exclusion of the all other gods. How can he who is unequaled and unsurpassed by anyone else be less amiable than he is? How can I say, you may go now, my lord? Tell me, my masters, knowing as you do the hearts of the all. Having spoken thus, the sage kept gazing on the Lord, thrilling all over with the emotions, and his eyes were flowing with tears. Thrilling all over with the excess of the Lord, the Sheikh riveted his eyes on the Lord's lotus face. He thought to himself, what prayers did I mutter, and what austerity did I perform, that I was enabled to behold with my own eyes the Lord who is beyond all knowledge and that transcends the three gunas, as well as the sense and the mind. It is through japas, muttering of prayers, yoga, concentration of the mind, and host of the religious observance that that man acquire devotion which is incomparable as a means of the God realization. So does Tulsidas sings the all holy exploit of the Sri Rama, the hero of Raghuline, day and night. The praises of Sri Rama destroys the impurities of the Kali, has subdued the mind, and are sources of the delight. Sri Rama remains ever propitious to those who listen to them with reverence. This terrible age of the Kali is a repertories of the sins, pieties, spiritual wisdom, yoga or japa are out of the place in this age. They alone are wise who worship Sri Rama, giving up all other hopes. Bowing his head at the lotus feet of the Sheikh Sri Rama, the lord of the celestial human being, and the Sheikh proceeded to the woods. Sri Rama walked foremost, while Lakshmana followed him in the rear, both appearing most lovingly in the grave of the hermit. Between the two, Sita, who was the same as the Sri Rama, the goddess of prosperity, shone forth like Maya, which stands between Brahma, the absolute, and the Jiva, the individual soul. Rivers and thickest hills and the rugged valleys recognized their lords and gave him a smooth passage. Wherever the divine lord of the Raghu passed, the clouds made a canopy in the heaven. Even as the trio wended their ways, the demons Viradha met them, and the hero of Raghunain slayed him as soon as he made his appearance. Meeting his death at the hands of the Lord, he immediately attained a beauteous divine form. Finding him led a miserable existence, the Lord sent him to his own abode, accompanied by his lovely younger brother Lakshmana and the Janaka's daughter. The Lord then visited the Sheikh Sarbhanga. Gazing on Sri Rama's lotus face, the eyes of the great Sheikh reverently drank of its beauty like bees. Blessed indeed was the birth of the Sharbhanga. Said the Sheikh, listen, gracious Rama, the hero of the Raghu line, the swan disporting the Mansa lake of the Lord Shiva's heart. I was about to leave to Brahma's abodes when the reports reached my ears that Sri Rama yourself was coming to the forest. I have ever since watched the road day and night. My heart is now soothes the sights of my Lord. I have accomplished nothing to deserve your grace, yet you have shown your grace to me, knowing me to your humble servants. Really speaking, however, you have done me no favor, my Lord. You have only redeemed your woe. O stealer of your devotee's heart, for the sake of his humble servant, remain here before my eyes till I have quitted this body and meet you in your own abode. So saying, the sage offers to the Lord whatever practice of yoga, sacrifices, japa, muttering of prayers, penance, and fasting he had done, and receives in turns the boon of devotion. Having thus acquired the rare gift of devotion, the Sheikh Sharbhanga prepared the funeral pile and, discarding all attachment from his heart, ascends it. Constantly abide in my heart, O Lord, with Sita and your younger brother Lakshmana in your qualified and embodied form, swarthily as a dark cloud, O graceful Rama. Having said so, he burned his body with the fire of yoga, and by the grace of Sri Rama rose to the Vaikuntha. The Sheikh was now absorbed into the person of Sri Hari for this simple reason that he had already received the boon of the personal devotions. The multitudes of the Sheikh assembled on the occasion, who saw the high state to which the great Sheikhs had now been translated, were greatly delighted at heart. All the hosts of the Sheikhs now extolled the Lord. Glory to the friend of the suppliant, the fountain of the mercy. Then the Lord of Raghu went on further into the forest, and many a host of the great Sheikhs accompanied him. Seeing a heap of the bones, the Lord of Raghu was moved with the great compassion and inquired the hermit about the same. So, knowing everything, how is it that you ask us, our master? We know you all seeing and can read the innermost feeling of all. Host of the demons have devoured all the Sheikhs. The eyes of the Sri Rama, the hero of Raghu, filled with tears when he heard this. With uplifted arms, he took a vow to rid the earth of demons. Then he gladdens all the hermits by visiting their hermitage one by one. The Sheikh Agastya had a learned disciplined Sutiksna by name, who was great lover of the Lord. He was devoted to the Sri Rama's feet in thought, words, and deed, and had no faith in any other deity, even in a dream. As soon as the news of the Lord approach reached his ears, he rushed out hurriedly, indulging in his own fancy. Will the Lord of Raghu, the befriender of the meek, O good heavens, ever shows his grace to the wretch like me? Will Lord Sri Rama and his younger brother receive me as his own servants? I have no unswearing faith in my heart, nor in my mind, illuminated by the light of the devotion, dissipation of wisdom. I have no association with saints and practice either yoga, concentration of the mind, nor japa, muttering of prayers, nor the rituals, nor do I claim any steadfast devotion to the Lord's lotus feet. I bank on the characteristic of all merciful Lord. He holds the devotee dear who depends exclusively on him. This inspires me with the hope that my eyes will be rewarded today by the sight of the Lord's lotus face that delivers one from of the bondage of the worldly existence. The wise was drowned in the flood of love. His condition, so Parvati, cannot be described in words. He had no idea of the four quarters, much less of the intermediate points of the compass, nor could he make out of the track. He did not know who he was, or with whither bound he would not turn back and then resume his journey in the same direction. And now he would dance and sing songs of the praises. The Sheikh had been gifted with devotion to the nature of the intense loves, and the Lord watched him hiding behind a tree. And the hero of Raghunayan, who despised the fear of transmigration, saw the Sheikh's excessive love. He revealed himself in his heart. The Sheikh sat motionless in the middle of the path, his body bristling like a jackfruit, with his hair standing on end. The Lord of the Raghu thereupon drew near and was delighted at heart to see the state of his devotee. Sri Rama tried many ways to rouse the Sheikhs, but he would not wake, lost as he was in the ecstasy of his vision. Sri Rama then withdrew his kingly views and manifested his four-armed form of the Sheikh's heart. The Sheikhs thereupon started up in great agony, growing as restless as a noble serpent that has lost the gem on his head. But seeing before him the blissful Rama in his swarthy form, and the Sita and his younger brother Lakshmana, the great and the blessed Sheikh was overwhelmed with affection and dropped like a log at his feet. Taking him in his long arms, the Lord lifted him and with utmost affection pressed him to his bosom. While embracing the Sheikhs, the gracious Lord shone forth like a tamla tree meeting a tree of the gourd. The Sheikh gazed on the Sri Rama's face, standing motionless like a figure drawn in a picture. Summoning courage in his heart and clasping his feet again and again, the Sheikhs then conducted the Lord of his hermitage and adored his homage in many ways. Said the Sheikhs, listen, O Lord, to my prayers. How am I to hymn your praises? For immeasurable is your glory, and scant is my wit, which is the insignificance as a flash of a fire fly before the sun. I constantly glorify Sri Rama, chief of Raghu, which is the body dark as a string of the blue lotuses, wearing a crown of the matted lock on his head, and clad in the hermit's robes, and carrying a bow and the arrow in his hands, with a quiver fastened to his waist. the fire which consumes the thick forest of the delusions, the sun that brings delight to the lotus like sands, the lion who kills the hearts of the elephants in the form of the demons, the hawk that kills the birds of the metamorphosis. May he ever protect us. I extol Sri Rama, whose eyes resembles the red lotuses, who is elegantly dressed, who is full of moon to the Sita's chakora like eyes, who is Kaizen deporting the Mansa lake of the Lord Shiva's hearts, and who has a broad chest and a long arm, a Garuda to the devil, the serpents of the doubt, the quell of the despair induced by heated controversy, the uprooter of the transmigration and delighter of the gods, the embodiment of compassion. May he ever protect us. I sing the praise of the Sri Rama, the reliever of the earth, burden, who is both with and without attributes, who is a partial as well as the impartial, who transcends knowledge, speech, and the senses, and has no compare. Nay, who is all pure, all comprehensive, faultless, and unlimited, a veritable garden of a wish-yielding tree to his devotee, who kept away wrath, greed, pride, and lust, who is most urbane in manner and the bridge to cross the ocean of the mundane existence. May that champion of the solar race ever protect me. Matchless is the power of the arm, the home of the stance, the armor for the protection of the rightness, endowed with the host of the delightful virtue. May the Rama, who varies names, wipe out the greatest sins of the Kali age, be ever propitious to me. Even though he is passionless, all pervading, imperishable, and even dwelling in the heart of all, let him abide in my thoughts as a slayer of the Khara, roaming about in the wood with his younger brother Lakshmana and Sita. Let alone, my Lord, those who know you to be a both with and without attributes and the witness of all hearts. As for myself, may Sri Rama, the lotus-eyed Lord of the Kaushala, take up his abode in my heart, that not his exalted feeling disappears from my mind, even as an unguarded movement, that I am his servant and the Lord of Raghu, my master. Sri Rama was delighted at heart to hear the Sheikh's words, and his delight he pressed the great Sheikhs to his bosom again. Know me to be supremely pleased, O Sheikhs. I am prepared to grant you any boon you may choose to ask. The Sheikhs replied, I have never asked any boon and know not what is real and what is unreal, what is chosen and what is reject. Therefore, O delighter of your devotee, grant me that which pleases you. O Lord of the Raghu, may you become a repository of the worldly wisdom and goodness, as well as the intense devotion, dissipation, and spiritual wisdom. I have received the boon that my Lord has been pleased to grant. Now vouchsafe for me that which is cherished by me. Armed with the bow and arrow and accompanied by your younger brother and Janka's daughter Sita, O Lord of Sri Rama, pray dwell forever like a moon in the ferment of my heart, throw free from every desire. So be it, said Sri Rama, the abode of the Lakshmi, as he joyously started on his visit to the Jar Monsek Agastya. It is long time since I last saw my Guru and came to live in the hermitage. Now, my Lord, I will go with you to see my Guru. Thus, I am not putting you under any obligation. The fountain of mercy saw through the Sheikh's cleverness, and both the brothers smiled as they took him with him, discoursing on the way of the incomparable cult of devotion to his own feet. Sri Rama, the king of the gods, arrived at the hermitage of the Sheikh Agastya. Sutikshna immediately saw the Guru, and after protesting himself before the latter, thus addressed him: My Lord, the true son of the king, the Dasharatha, Kaushala's Lord, the support of the word, have come to see you. Sri Rama, accompanied by his younger brother Lakshmana and Videha's daughter Sita, whose name you repeats night and day, venerable, says Agastya started up as soon as he heard this and ran at the sight of Sri Hari. His eyes filled with tears. The two brothers fell at the Sheikh's lotus feet, and the Sheikhs took and clasped them to his bosom with the utmost affection. Courteously inquiring after their welfare, the enlightened Sheikhs conducted them to a magnificent seats and then offered worship in the various ways to the Lord, saying, There is no other man so blessed as I am. Whatever other Sheikhs has assembled there, they are all delighted to behold the fountain of joy. As he sat in the midst of assembly of the Sheikh, with his face turned towards all, and their eyes fixed on his moon-like face, they seems like a baby of the chakora birds gazing on the autumnal moon. Then said Sri Rama, the hero of the Raghuline, to the Sheikhs, I have nothing to hide from you, my Lord. You know what for I have come. That is why, holy sir, I have not dwelt at length on these points. Now, my good sir, give me some advice by following which I may be able to kill the enemies of the hermits. The Sikh smiled when he heard the Lord's remark. With what intentions have you asked me this question? It is by virtue of my devotion to you, O destroyer of the sin, that I know a bit of your glory. Your Maya creative potency is like a huge tree of the species known by the name of the Udambara, with the countless multitudes of universe for its clustering fruits. The animate and the inanimate being inhabiting the various universe are like the insects that dwell inside the fruits and know of no other things fruits besides the ones they inhabit. The relentless and dreadful time spirit devours their fruits, but even that all devouring time ever trembles in the fear of you. You who are the suzerain lord of all the regional lords, have asked my advice as though you were a ordinary human being. I ask the boon of you, O home of the mercy. Pray, dwell in my heart with your spouse, the younger brother Lakshmana, and let me have intense devotion, dispassion, and fellowship with the saints and unbroken love for your lotus feet. Even though I know you to be the same as the indivisibles and the infinite Brahma, the absolute, who can only be realized and cannot be known by any other means, and is adored by the saints, and even though I depict you as such, I feel enormous of your qualified form again and again. You have always exalted your servants. That is why you have thought fit to consult me. O Lord of the Raghu, there is my Lord, a most charming and the holy spots. It is called Panchamati. Sanctify the Dandaka forest where it is situated, and redeem it from the terrible curse of the great Sikhs, Shukracharya. Take up your abode there, O Lord of the Raghu line, and show your grace to all the Sikhs. On receiving the Sikhs' permissions, Sri Rama departed and drew near to the Panchavati in a short while. He made Jatayu the king of the vulture, and developing friendship with him in many ways. The Lord stayed near to the Godavari, where he made himself a thatched hut of the leaves. From the time Sri Rama took up his abode, there is a Sikhs live happily and were rid of all fear. The hills, woods, streams, and lakes were suffused with the beauty and grew yet more lovely day by day. The birds and deer were full of joy, and the bees with the sweet summing looked very charming. Not even Shesha, the king of the servants, would be able to describe the forest, which was adorned by the Sri Rama, chief of Raghu, in his mean feasted forms. Once upon a time, as the Lord was sitting at ease, Lakshmana addressed him in the clueless words, O Lord of Raghu, human being, Sikhs in all animate and inanimate creation, I ask you as of my own master, instruct me, my Lord, how I am be able to adore the dust of your feet to the exclusions of the everything else. Discourse to me on spiritual wisdom and dissipation as well as Maya illusion, and who also speaks to me about bhakti, due to which you shower your grace. Also explain to me all the differences between gods and the individual souls, so that I may be devoted to your feet, and my sorrow, infatuation, and delusions may disappear. I will explain everything in a nutshell. Listen, dear brother. With your mind, intellect, and reason fully absorbs, the feeling of I and mine and you and yours is the Maya illusions, which hold sway over all created being. Whatever is perceived by the senses and that which lies within the reach of the mind, know it all to be the Maya, and hear of its division too. They are two: knowledge and ignorance. That one, ignorance, is vile and extremely painful and has cast a jiva into metamorphosis. The other, knowledge, which brings forth the creation and which holds sway over the three gunas, sattva, rasa, and tamsa, is directed by the Lord and has no strength of its own. Spiritual wisdom is that which is free from the blemishes in the shape of the pride, etc., and which sees the Supreme Spirit equally in all. He alone, dear brother, should be called a man of the supreme dispassion, who has sprung all supernatural power as well as the three gunas of which the universe is composed, as it form no more account than a blade of the grass. That alone deserves to be called a jiva, individual soul, which knows not Maya, nor God, nor oneself, and Shiva, God, is he who avoids bondage and liberation according to one's desire, transcends all, and the motivator of Maya. This passion results from the practice of the virtue While spiritual wisdom comes of the practice of the yoga, concentration of the mind, and wisdom is the bestower of the liberation, so declare the Vedas, and that which melt my heart quickly. Dear brother, is devotion which is the delight of my devotee. It stands by itself and requires no other prop, whereas jhana, knowledge of the God, is the absolute formless aspect, and vijnana, knowledge of the qualified aspect of the God, both with and without form, depend on it. Devotion, dear brother, is incomparable and the very root of the bliss. It can be acquired only by the favor of the saints. I now proceed to tell you at some length the means of acquiring devotion, an easy path by which men find me. In the first place, a man should cultivate excessive devotion to the feet of the Brahmans, and secondly, he should remain engaged in his own duty according to the lines laid down by the Vedas. This induced an aversion to the pleasure of the senses, and dissipation in its turn engenders a love of my cult, the cult of devotion. This will bring steadfastness in the nine forms of devotion, such as Shravana, hearing the Lord's praises, etc., and the mind will develop excessive fondness for my sports. Again, one should be extremely devoted to the lotus feet of the saints and should be persistent in the practice of adoration through mind, speech, and action. We should the nine form of devotion and enumerated as the Srimad Bhagavata: Shravana, hearing of the Lord praises and stories; Kirtana, chanting His names, praises and stories; Smarana, one's thoughts on Him, fixing on thoughts on Him; Padma Seva, adoring His feet; Archana, worship the image of the Lord; Vandana, making obeisance to Him; Dasya, offering devout services of the Lord; Sakanya, cultivate friendship with Him; and the Atma Nivedana, offering oneself to the God. So he should recognize me as the preceptor, father, mother, kinsman, lord, deity, and all should be steadfast in my service. A thrill rain through his body as he sings my praises. His voice gets choked and his eyes float with the tears. He is free from lust and other vices, pride and hypocrisy. I am ever at the back and call of such a devotee. May I ever repose in the lotus hearts of those who depend on me in thoughts, words, and deed, and who worship me in a selfless way. Lakshmana was greatly delighted to hear the above discourse of the discipline of the bhakti devotion and bowed his head at the feet of his Lord. In this way, some days were spent in discoursing on dissipation, spiritual wisdom, goodness, and the morality. Now, Ravana, the notorious demon king of the Lanka, had a sister Surpanakha, that is, a woman having nails as big as a windowing fan, by name, who was foul-hearted and cruel as the serpents. She once went to the Panchavati and was smitten with pangs of the love at the sight of the two princes, at the very sight of the handsome man, he her own brother, father, or son. O Garuda, a wanton woman get excited and cannot restrain her passion, even as the sun's stone emits fire when it is brought in front of the sun. Having assumed a charming form, she approached the Lord and with many smiles addressed the following words to him: "There is no man like you and no woman like me. It is with great deliberation the Lord has made these pairs. I have ransacked the three spheres, but have found no suitable match for me in the whole universe. It is for the reason that I have till now remained a virgin. My mind has been set at rest a bit only after seeing you." The Lord cast a glance at Sita and said only this much: "My younger brother is a bachelor." She went to the Lakshmana, who, knowing that she was their enemy's sisters, looked at his lords and spoke in gentle tones: "Listen, fair lady, I am his servant and the dependent. Thus you will have no comforts with me. My Lord is all powerful and the sovereign king of the Kaushalpura Ayodhya. Now, whatever he does will be worthy of him. A servant who aspires for happiness, a beggar who expects honor, a person addicted to some vice who hopes for riches, a profligate who seeks a blessed state after death, a various man who covets fame, and the proud man who expects the four prizes of the life. All these men expect to get milk by milking the heavens." Again she turns and came to Sri Rama, but the Lord sent her back to the Lakshmana. Said Lakshmana, "He alone will wed you, who deliberately cast all shame to the winds." Thereupon she went frattering and foaming to Sri Rama and revealed her frightful demonic forms. The Lord of Raghu saw that Sita was terrified and made a sign of his younger brother Lakshmana. With great agility, Lakshmana struck off her nose and ears, thereby challenging Ravana through her to the contest, as it were. Without nose and ears, she wore a hideous aspect and looked like a mountain flowing with torrents of the road orchards. She went sobbing to Khara and Dushna, Fie upon your manhood and the stands, brother. Cautioned by them, she told them everything in the detail. Hearing her reports, the demon's chief gathered as an army. Swarming multitudes of the demons of the diverse shapes rushed forth like hosts of the winged mountains of the calarium of the vehicles of the various kinds. They were infinite in number and were armed with the terrible weapons of the various kinds. They placed at their heads Surpanakha shorn of her ears and nose, and thus presenting an inauspicious sight. Numberless ill omens of the fearful nature occurred to him, but the host heeded them not. Doomed as they all were to the death, they rode and bullied and sprang in his air, and his champions were filled with excessive joy to see the army. Said one, capture the two brothers alive, and having captured them, kill them and carry off the woman. The vault of the heaven was overhung with the dust raised by him. Seeing this, Sri Rama called his younger brother Lakshmana and said, take Janaka's daughter to the some mountain caves. A terrible array of the demons has come. Therefore remain on your guard. Obedient to his lord's command, she withdrew to a safe retreat with Sita's bows and arrow in hand. When Sri Rama saw that the hostile force has advanced, he smiled as he strung his formidable bow. As he quieted his matted lock into a tuft of his head after swinging his formidable bow, it seemed as if a pair of the snakes were engaged in a conflict, with countless strokes of the lightning on the mountain of emerald having gritted up his quiver as his waist, and disclasping the bow with his long arms and putting his arrows in the order. He looked at the enemy even as Lion, the king of the beasts, would clear a herd of the large elephants. Valiant champions came rushing with all speed, shouting, seize him, seize him, even as the demons closed round upon the rising sun, finding it all alone. Even as they beheld the lord of the invading warriors could not discharge their arrow, the whole demon host became powerless. Khara and Dushna summoned their minister and said, this princess, whoever he may be, in the ornament of the human race, of all the Nagas, demons, gods, human beings, and the Sikhs that exist in this universe, we have seen vanquished of the or slain many, yet during our whole life, listen to us, our brethren souls, we have never beheld such beauty. Even though he had disfigured our sister, he does not deserve death. Fearless as he is among men, surrender to us at once the woman you have put in hiding somewhere, and return home with your life, both you and your brother. Deliver this message to mine to him, and return immediately with his reply. The herds went to Sri Rama and delivered the message to him, in reply to which Sri Rama smilingly said, we are Kshatriya by birth and are given to hunting in the woods. Wretched like you are the games, yes, we are game that we are tracking. We are never dismayed at the sight of the mighty foe, and would give battle to the death himself if he ever appeared before us. Though human being, we are the exterminator of the race of the demons, and though youthful in appearance, we are the protector of the hermits and the torments of the weak. If you have no strength to fight, you had better return home. I never kill an enemy who had turned his backs upon the field of the battle. When you have come up to fight, it would be height of the weakness to play with pranks or the show compassion to your enemy. The Harland returns forthwith and repeated all that they had been told. The heart of Khara and Dushna was on fire when they heard it. Their heart was on fire, and they exclaimed, capture him. Hearing with fierce demons, champions rushed forth, all armed with the bows and the arrows, steel clubs, spikes, spears, skimasters, mags, and the axes. First of all, the Lord gave him bow, a twang, shrill, terrific and fearful, which defended and distressed the demons, and they had no senses left in them at that time. Having learned that they were confronting a powerful enemy, the demon warriors now rushed with cautious and began to hurl missiles and weapons of the various kinds on Sri Rama. The hero of Raghunath, however, tore them into the pieces as small as sesame seeds, and they, drawing the bow strings to his ear, let fly his own arrow. Then the terrible arrow spread forth, hissing like so many serpents. Sri Rama got infuriated in battle, and an arrow exceedingly sharp flew from his bows. The demon warrior turned and fled when they found the arrow so very keen. The three brothers, Khara, Dushna, and Trisha, now fled into the rig. Whoever flee from the battlefield will be killed by us with our own hands. At this, the warriors turns back, fully resolved to the die, and made a frontal attack with weapons of the various description. Perceiving that the enemy was extremely furious, the Lord fitted arrow to his bows and discharged many a shaft of the nurture type. With the results, the frightful field began to move down. Trunk, heads, arms, heads, and the feet begin to drop to the ground here and there and everywhere. Pierced by the shaft, they yield, and their trunks fell into the mountain. The bodies of the warriors were torn into 100 pieces, and resorting to the deceptive methods, they stood up again. A number of arms and the heads flew through the air, and the headless trunks rained to and fro. Birds like kites and crows and jackals wrangled in the cruel and the awful way. The cast angles, ghost spirits, and French fills the bowl of the skulls and blood. Devils clash the heads of the slain warriors like Campbells, and the yoginis dance. Sri Rama swears arrows tore to pieces the leaders' breast, arms, and the heads. Their bodies fell on every side, but stood up again to fight with terrible cries of the seas capture. Vultures flew away with the ends of the entrails in their claws, while goblins campers with the other ends held in their hands. One might fancy numberless children of the town of the battlefield were flying kites. A large number of champions that had been smitten or knocked. A class of female attendant Lord Shiva, Goddess Durga, who are generally believed to be 64 in numbers. The class of the female attendants of Lord Shiva or Goddess Durga, who are generally believed to be the 64 down, or whose breast a large number of champions that have been smitten or knocked down, or whose breast has been laid lay mourning. Finding their army in distress, leaders like Trisha, Khara, and Dushna turned towards Sri Rama. Countless demons hurled furiously against the hero of Raghuline. Arrows, spears, iron clubs, axes, javelins, and daggers. All at once, in the twinkling of an eye, the Lord warded off the enemy's shafts and sent forth his own arrow, planting 10 shafts in the breast of the each champions of the demons host. The leaders fell the ground, but rose again and joined in his fray. Yet they would not die and played very many tricks. The gods trembled with fears when they saw that the demons, numberless 14, numbered 14,000, where the Lord of Ayodhya was all alone. Finding the gods and the Sikhs, loves the Lord who is the controller of the Maya cosmic illusions, what a great miracle! The demons saw one another in the form of the Sri Rama, so that the enemy warriors fought among themselves and perished. They quitted their body, crying Rama Rama, and thereby attained the state of the eternal bliss. Falling back upon the device of the ocean, the ocean of the mercy killed the enemy in the instance. The god, in their exclusion, rained down flowers, and cattle drums sounded in the heavens, and hymning their praises one after another, they all left shining in their cars of the various pattern. When the Lord of Raghu had vanquished the foe in a battle, the gods, human being, and the Sikhs were all rid of the fear. Then Lakshmana brought Sita back, and as he fell at his feet, the Lord joyously clasped him to his bosom. Sita fixed her gaze on his swarthy and delicate forms with utmost affection, but her eyes knew no satiety. Thus, dwelling at Panchavati, the blessed Lord of the Raghu performed deeds that delighted gods. And Sikhs alike. Perceiving the destruction of Khara and Dushna, Surpanakha approached Ravana and instigated him against Sri Rama. In great fury, she had rated him in the following words: discarding all throw of your realms and exchequer, you drink and sleep day and night, and take no heed of the enemy who is now at your very door. Sovereignty without political insight, wealth diverse from the virtue, noble deed that have not been offered to Sri Hari, and the learning which does not beget discrimination is nothing but fruitless labor to the man who has gained such kingdom or wealth. To the door of the noble acts and the students respectively, a clause is quickly undone by the attachment, a king by evil counsel, wisdom by the conceit, modesty by drinking, friendship by want of love, and man of marriage by vanity. Such is the maxim I have heard. An enemy a melody fire, since a master and serpents are never to be accounted trifles. So saying, and with profuse lament, she sat to weeping. In her distress, she threw herself down to the Ravana's courts, and with many tears said, "You think, my 10-headed brothers, that I should be reduced to this state, even though you are alive?" On hearing this, the courtiers rose in great bewilderment. Taking her by the arms, they lifted her up and comforted her. Said the king of the Lanka, "Tell me what had happened to you, who had stuck off your nose and the ears. Two sons of the Dashatha, the lord of Ayodhya, who are lying among men, are out of the hunting in the woods. The estimates that I have formed of his doing is that they will rid the earth of the demons, relying on the might of their arms. O 10-headed Ravana, the hermits roam about in the woods without fear. Though quite young to look, they are terrible as death. The staunchest of archers and the accomplished in many ways, both brothers are unequaled in might and the glory, devoted to the extermination of the wicked. They are source of delight to the gods and sake. The elder of the two, who is an abode of the beauty, is known by the name of the Rama. He has with his younger belly, the Creator made the woman, the very embodiment of loveliness. 100 million ratis, consort of the god of love, are terrifies before her. It was her younger brother Lakshmana who chopped off my ears and nose and made a mock of me when he heard that I was your sister. When Khara and Dushna heard of it, they went to the avenge of the wrong done to me. That Rama slew the whole army in a trice. The 10-headed demon Ravana burns all over with rags when he heard of the destruction of Khara, Dushna, and Trisha. Having consoled Surpanakha, he boasted of his strength in many ways, but the retired of his palace full of great anxiety and could not sleep the whole night. Among gods, human beings, demons, nagas, and birds, he thought there is none who can withstand my servant. As for Khara and Dushna, they were as powerful as myself. Who else could have killed them? Had it not been the Lord Himself, therefore the Lord Himself, the delighter of the gods and the reliever of the earth burden, had appeared on the earth. I will go and resolutely fight with him and cross the ocean of the mundane existence. By failing to his adoration is out of caution in his dominatic body, which is made up of the principle of ignorance, tamsa. Therefore, such is my firm resolve in thought, words, and deed. And if they happen to be some mortal princes, I shall conquer them both in battle and carry off the bride. Having thus made up his mind, he mounted his chariots and drove along to the spots where Marika was living by the seashore. Now, here Uma, the delectable account of his device that Sri Rama employed. When Lakshmana had gone to the woods to gather root fruits and the bulbs, Sri Rama, the very incarnation of the compassion and joy, spoke with his smiles of Janaka's daughter. With a smile to Janaka's daughter, "This is my darling, who have been staunch in the holy vow of fidelity to me and are so virtuous in conduct. I am going to act a lovely human part, abide in fire until I have completed the destruction of the demons." No sooner had Sri Rama told her everything in detail than Sita impressed the image of the Lord's feet on her heart and entered into the fire, leaving with him only the shadow of hers, though precisely of the same appearance and the same amiable and the gentle disposition. Lakshmana too did not know the secrets of what the lords had done behind the curtain. The 10-headed Ravana approached Marika and bowed his head to him. Selfish as vile as he was, the meekness of the mean creature is the source of the great trouble. Like commanding of the goat, bows, snakes, or cat, the sage quoted speeches of villain is an alarming. Bhavani Parvati is the flowers that blossoms out of the seasons. After doing his homage, Marika respectfully inquired of him his errands. Wherefore, my sons, are you so much disturbed in mind that you have come all the way alone? The wretched Ravana proudly repeated the whole story to him and added, "Assumes that the false appearance of the wily deer, so that I may be able to abduct the princess." Marika, however, remonstrated, "Listen, Ravana, though distinguished as a man, he is the lord of the whole animate and inanimate creation. There can be no quarrel with him, dear sons. If we die when he would have us die and live only by his sufferance." Those very princes had gone to guard the sacrifice of the sacred Vishwamitra, when Sri Rama, the Lord who smote me with the pointless arrow that threw me at the distance of the 800 miles in an instant. It will not be good to antagonize them. I find myself reduced to the position of the insects caught in the nest of the bringa, a vast like winged creatures, inasmuch as I behold the two brothers, whatever I took. Look, even if they are human beings, dear sons, they are remarkable heroes, not less, and the oppositions on them will not avail. But can be possibly be a man who recklessly killed Tatka and Subahu, broke Shiva's bows, and slew Khara, Dushna, and Trisha. It is matter of the common observation that the Bhranga catches hold of any insects, whoever, and conflicting its nest to mud hums incessantly before it, with the result that the insect is enamoured of the Bhranga and eventually transformed into the Bhranga. Therefore, considering the welfare of a race, you had better returns home. When he heard this, flared up with the showered many abuses of on Marika. You fool! You presume to teach me as if you were my preceptor. Tell me which warrior in this world is a match for me. Then Marika thought to himself, it does not do one good to make enemies of the following names. That is, one skilled in the use of the weapon, he who knows one's secrets, a powerful master, a dons, a wealthy man, a physician, a pangerist, a poet, an expert cook. Either way he saw he must die, hence he should refuge in the Lord of the Raghus. Hence he sought refuge in the Lord of Raghus. If I argue further, the wretch would kill me. The wretch would kill me. Why then should I not be killed by Sri Rama's arrow? Pondering thus in mind, he accompanied Ravana's unremitting in his devotion to Sri Rama's feet. He felt extremely delighted at the thought that he would be able to behold his greatest friend Sri Rama, even though he would not reveal his joy to Ravana. My eyes will be rewarded when I behold my most beloved Lord of my great exclusions, and I shall fix my thoughts on the feet of all merciful, accompanied by Sita's and his younger brother. To think that Sri Rama, the ocean of bliss, whose very wrath confers final beatitude, and who, thought subject to none, gives himself up entirely to the will of his devotee, will fit an arrow with his own hands to his bow and slay me. As he run after me on foot, carrying his bows and arrows, I shall again and again turn in order to get a sight of my Lord. No one else is so blessed as I am. When the 10-headed Ravana drew near to the forest in which Sri Rama had taken up his abode, Marika assumed his false appearance of a deer, so very wonderful as to defy description, with a body of gold artistically inlaid with jewels. When Sita saw the exquisitely beautiful creature, most lovely in every limb, she said, "Listen, my gracious Lord Sri Rama, hero of the Raghulai, this deer has most charming skin. Pray kill the animals, my lord, and get me the hide, true as you are to your words." Thereupon the Lord of Raghu, even though he knew all the circumstances that had led Marika to assume the semblance of the deer, arose with joy to accomplish the object of the god. Casting a look at the deer, he grinned, geared up his loins with a piece of cloth, and taking the bow in his hands, fitted a shining arrow to the same. The Lord cautions Lakshmana, "A host of the demon brother roam about in the woods. Take care of the Sita with due regards to your strength and circumstances, and making use of your intellect and discretions." The deer took to the flight at the sight of the Lord, and Sri Rama ran after it, pulling his bow strings. How strange that he whom the Veda describes in negative terms, such as not that, and whom Shiva is unable to catch hold the even of the meditation, ran in pursuit of the false deer. Now close at hand, the very next moment it ran away to some distance. At one time it came into the view, at another it went out of the sight, thus alternatively revealing and concealing itself, and practicing every kind of the while it took the Lord far away. Now Sri Rama took a steady aim and let fly the fatal shafts, when the animal fell to the ground with a fearful cry, first calling aloud to Lakshmana, but afterwards mentally invoking Sri Rama, while giving up the ghost in manifested its real forms and lovingly remembered Sri Rama, the omniscient Lord, who could see the love of his heart conferred on him, the state which cannot be easily attained to even by the sages. The gods rained down flowers in the abundance and sang praises of the Lord of Raghu, in such a friend of a humble that he comforted his own state divinity on a divan. As soon as he had slain the wretch, the hero of the Raghuline turns back, the charming bow in his hand and the quiver at his waist. When Sita heard the cry of the distress, she was seized with excessive fears and said to the Lakshmana, "Go quickly, your brother in the great peril." Lakshmana answered with a smile, "Listen, mother, by the very play of the Sri Rama's eyebrows, the entire creation is annihilated. Could he then everly dreamed of being in danger?" But when Sita urged him with words that cut him to the quick, Lakshmana's resolutions, for such was Sri Hari's will, was shaken. He entrusted her to the care of all the sovereign gods and the deities presiding over the quarters, and proceeded to the place where Sri Rama, a veritable Rahu to the moon like Ravana, was availing himself of this opportunity. And there was none by the side of the Sita. The ten-headed Ravana drew near to her cottage in the guise of the recluse. He, in fear of whom the gods and the demons equally trembled, so much so that they could neither sleep by night nor eat their food by the day. That very Ravana proceeded on his missions of thriving, looking this sides and that like a cur. Even so, the moment a man sets his foot on the path of the wise, O Garuda, king of the worlds, his bodily glow, reason, and strength completely disappear. Having invented alluring stories of the various kinds, he not only showed her the course of which was dictated by political wisdom, but also used threats and made love to her. Said Sita, "Listen, O holy father, you have spoken like a villain." Then Ravana revealed his real form, and she was terrified when he mentioned his name. Sita plucked all her courage and said, "Stay a while, O wretch, my lord has come. Even as a tiny hair could wed a lioness, so have you wooed your own destruction by setting your heart on me, O king of the demons." On hearing these words, the ten-headed Ravana flew into the lake, though in his heart he rejoiced to adore her feet. Full of rage, Ravana now seated her in the carrots and drove through the air in the great fury. He was so much afraid that he was scarcely able to drive. O Lord of Raghu, peerless champions of the world, reliever of the distress and delighter of the suppliant, the sun that gladdens the lotus like rays of the Raghu, for what fault of mine you forget showing mercy? Lakshmana, the fault is none of yours. I have reaped the fruit of the temper I showed. Manifold were the lamentations the Videha's daughter utters. Through boundless his mercy, my Lord, my loving Lord is the far away, who will apprise the Lord of my calamity, and as would eat the sacrificial oblations. At the sound of Sita's loud wailing, all creature beings, whether animate or inanimate, felt distress. Jatayu, the king of the vulture, heard the piteous cries and recognized from her voice that it was the spouse of Sri Rama, the glory of Raghu race, who was being carried away by the wild demon Ravana like a dun cow that had fallen into the hands of some barbarian. "Sita, my lord, my daughter, fear not. I will kill these demons." The birds darted off its fury like a thunderbolt hurled against a mountain. "Why do you not stop, O villain? You are processing fearlessly as if you have not yet known me." When he saw the vulture bearing down upon him like death, the ten-headed monster turns towards him, and bearing down upon him like death, the ten-headed monster turns towards him and reflected, "It is Mount Manika, or can it be the Garuda, the king of the birds? The latter, however, knows my strength, and as also his lords Bhagwan Vishnu." When the birds drew near, he recognized it and said, "It is no other than the aged Jatayu. He has come to drop his body at the sanctuary of my hands. At this, the vulture rushed in the excitement of his worries, exclaimed, "Listen, Ravana, to my advice and return home safely, letting Janka's daughter alone. Otherwise, despite your many arms, what will happen in this? In the most terrible flame of Sri Rama's wrath, your whole house will be consumed like a moth." Bellicose Ravanas, however, gave no answer. The vulture Jatayu thereupon rushed wildly on and, clutching the demons by his hair, pulled him from the carriage so that he fell to the ground. Having placed Sita in a safe retreat, the vulture turns once more towards Ravana and, shrinking him with his beak, tore his body. For nearly half an hour, Ravana lay unconscious. Much annoyed at this, the demons now angrily drew his most dreadful sword and cut off the Jatayu's wings. Invoking Sri Rama and having accomplished marvelous feats, the birds fell to the ground. Ravana took Sita once more into the car and drove off in hassle. Great alarm. Sita was borne through the air, laminating like a frightened doe caught in the trap of the hunter. Perceiving some monkeys perched on the hill, she dropped some cloths, uttering Sri Hari's names. In this manner, Ravana took Sita away and kept her in the Ashoka garden. The wretch tried every kind of the treat and endearment, but failed miserably. At last, he kept her under a Ashoka tree, strongly guarded. Having impressed on her heart the beautiful image of the Sri Rama as he appeared while running into the pursuit of false deer, Sita incessantly repeated Sri Hari's name. When the Lord of Raghu saw his younger brother coming, he outwardly expressed much concern. "Else you have left Janka's daughter alone and come here against my instructions. Hosts of demons are roaming about in the forest. I therefore suspect Sita is not at the hermitage." Lakshmana clasped Sri Rama's lotus feet and replied with joint palm, "Lord, it is no fault of the mine." Accompanied by his younger brother, the Lord went back to his hermitage on the bank of the Godavari. When he saw the hermitage bereft of the Janka's daughter, he felt as perturbed and afflicted as any common man. Sita, Janka's daughter, the very mind of the virtue of such flawless beauty, character, austerity, and devotion. Lakshmana consolated him in many ways. He cautioned all the creepers and the trees that stood on the way as he went along in search of her. "O birds and the deers, O string of bees, have you seen the fawn-eyed Sita, the wagtails, the parrots, the pigeons, the deers, the fish, the swarm of these, the clever cuckoo, the jasmine birds, the pomegranates, the lightning, the lotuses, the atmal moons, the gliding serpents, the noose of the Varuna, the god of the water, the bow of the Cupid, the swan, the elephants, and the lion now hear themselves praised. The bilva fruits and the gold banana rejoice and do not feel the lasting misgiving a bashfulness. Listen, Janka's daughter, it is in your absence today. They are all glad as if they have got a kingdom. Now, can you bear such rivalry? Why do you not reveal yourselves quickly, my darling?" In this way, the Lord searched and lamented like an anxious husband, so smitten with pangs of the separation. Sri Rama, who is a bliss personified and had all his wishes accomplished, and who is both unborn and immortal, behaved like immortal. Further on, they saw the king of the vultures laying with the thought fixed on the Sri Rama's feet, which bear characteristic mark on his soul. Sri Rama here are well nigh exhausted list of the birds and beasts as well as animated Sri. The scripture narration 88 mark of the soul's Lord feet 28 of each. Those on left are a vertical lines. The Ashukarna underboard again the barely shielding tree. The hero of Ragula and the ocean of Sri Rama and the ocean of the mercy cares Jatayu's head and his lotus hands as the birds gazed on Sri Rama's countenance. The home of the loveliness, all his pains disappeared. The vulture now recovered himself and spoke as follows: "Listen, Rama, the layer of the fear of transmigration. It was the 10-headed Ravana, my lord, who reduced me to his plight. It was the same wretch who carried off Janka's daughter. He took her away, holy sir, to the south, while she kept screaming loudly as an osprey. I have survived, my lord, only to behold you. My life now is about to depart. O fountain of mercy, said Sri Rama, live yet more, dear one. He, however, replied with smiles on his countenance, he whose very name so declares the Vedas, redeemed the most depraved soul, even if it is appears on his lips at the moment of his death, is present before me in a visible form. What more is wanting now for which I should retain my body any longer? With his eyes full of tears, the Lord of Raghu replied, dear father, you have attained to the inviolable states by virtue of your own noble deed. Nothing is difficult of attaining in this world to those who have others' interest at the heart. Casting off your body, dear father, proceed now to my divine abode. What shall I give you when you have all your desires already accomplished? But on reaching their sires, tell now my fathers about Sita's abduction. If I am no other than Rama, if I am what I am, the 10-headed Ravana and his whole house will go and say everything to him. The vulture now dropped his body and assumed Srihari's own form, bedecked with many jewels and clad in the yellow attire of the matchless splendor, and possessed of the dark hue and the four long arms, and with his eyes full of tears, he burst into the praises of his Lord. Glory to Sri Rama's incomparable, who is absolutely as well as qualified and the true impeller of Gunas, Mayas too. His fierce arrows are potent enough to cut off the terrible arms of the 10-headed Ramra. I instantly adore the all-merciful Sri Ramas, the ornaments of the earth, who is endowed with the form dark as a rain cloud, a face resembling the blue lotus, and large eyes resembling the red lotuses, possessed on the long arms. He raid his devotees of a fear of the transmigration. His strength is immeasurable. He is without beginning and without an unborn, the one without a second, unmean-feasted and imperceptible, beyond and reach of the senses, though attainable with the help of the Vedic hymns, the dispeller of pair of the opposites such as joy and sorrow, birth and death, pleasure and pain, etc., consciousness personified, the supporter of the earth, the delighter of the souls of the countless saints, and devotee who repeats the sacred name of the Rama. I will extol Sri Rama, who loves and loved by those who are free from the desires and curbs the host of the vicious prosperity such as lust and so on. He whom the Vedas glorify under the name of the Brahma, pure, free from all taint of the Maya, all pervading, passionless and unborn, whom the sages attained to through manifold practices such as meditation, discretion, dissipation, and yoga, self-discipline, that fountain of mercy had become mean feast as the very incarnation of the beauty and enraptured the whole animate and inanimate creation. He is the bee that resides in the lotus of my heart, and through every limb of his shines the splendor of many, a god of love, he who is at once inaccessible and easily accessible, who had glueless dispositions and is both partial and the impartial and ever placid, whom the yogis perceive with great efforts, subduing their senses and minds, that Rama, the abode of the Rama, goddess Lakshmi, and the lord of the three spheres, the entire creation, is ever at the beck and call of his devotee. May he abide in my heart, whose holy praises put a stop to transmigration. Asking the boon of uninterrupted devotion, the vulture Jatayu ascends to the Sri Hari's abode. Sri Rama performed his funeral rites with due ceremony and with his own hands. The Lord is the most tender-hearted and compassionate to the humble, and showed his mercy even where there is no occasion for it. On a virtue who is most unclear and the carnivorous birds, he conferred a state which is solicited even by the yogis. Listen, Uma, those peoples are unfortunate indeed who abandon Sri Haris and become attached to the object of the sense. The two brothers proceeded further in the quest of the Sita and marked the tickling of the forest. Even as they went, the thicket was full of creepers and trees and inhabited by many birds and deers, elephants and lions. Sri Rama overthrew the demon's Kabandha even as the latter met him on the way. He told him in the whole stories about the curse pronounced on him. The sage Durvasa had impressed me. The sin had now been wiped out by the sight of the Lord's feet. Listen, O Gandharvas, so to what I tell you. I cannot tolerate an enemy of Brahmans. He who without glue in thought was indeed the service of the Brahmans, the very gods of the earth, wins over Brahma, Shiva, myself, and other divinities. A Brahma, even though he curse you, beat you, on speak harsh words to you, is still worthy of adoration. So declare the saints of Brahmans. Brahmana must be respected though lacking in amiability and virtue, not so as Shudra. Though possessing a host of virtues and rich in knowledge, the Lord instructed Kabanda in his own cult, the cult of the devotion, and was delighted at heart to see his devotion to his feet. Having regained his original form, that is the Gandharva, he bowed his head to the lotus feet of Sri Rama, the Lord of Raghu, and ascends to the heavens, having conferred on him his own Gandharva stage. The beneficent Rama repaired to the hermitage of the Shabri. When Shabri saw that the Sri Rama had called at her abode, she recalled the words of her Sikhs, Matanga, and was glad at heart with lotus like eyes, long arms, a tuft of matted hair, adoring their Ramayana had like a crown and garland of the wild flowers hanging upon his breast. The two brothers looked upon most charming, the one dark of hue and the other fair. Shabri felt protest and embraced her feet. She was so overwhelmed with love that no words came to her lips. Again and again she bowed her head at their lotus feet, but presently she took look some water and reverently leaved their feet and then conducted them to the seat of the honor. She bought and offered to the Shira the most delicious bulbs, roots, and the fruits. The Lord partook of them, appreciating again and again. Joining her palm, she stood before him. As she gazed upon the Lord, her love waxed yet more ardent. How can I extol you, lowest in descent and the dullest of wit as I am? A woman is the lowest of those who rank as the lowest of the low. O woman, again I am the most dull-headed. O destroyer of the sins, answered the Lord of the Raghu. Listen, O good lady, to my words. I recognize no other kinship except that of the devotion, despite caste, kinship, lineage, dharma, reputation, wealth, physical strength, numerical strength, and his family accomplishment and ability. A man lacking of devotion is of no more worth than a cloud without water. Now I tell you the 9 forms of the devotion. Please listen attentively and cherish them in your mind. The first, in order to accompany with the saints, and the second is marked by the fondness of my story. Humble service of the lotus feet of one preceptor is the third form of the devotion, while the fourth type of devotion consists of singing my praises with a glueless heart. Muttering my names with unwavering faith constitutes the fifth form of devotion revealed in the Vedas. The six varieties consisting in the practice of self-control and the virtue, desisting from manifold activities and even pursuing the course of conduct prescribed for the saints. He who practices the seven types sends the world full of me without distinctions and reckon the saints as even greater than myself. He who cultivates the eighth type of devotion remains contented with whatever he gets and never thinks of detecting others' faults. The ninth form of devotion demands that one should be glueless and straight in one's dealings with everyone, and should in his heart cherish implicit faith in me without either exclusions or depression. Whoever possesses any one of these 9 forms of devotion, be he man or woman or any other creatures, sentient or insentient, is most dear to me. O good lady, as for yourself, you are blessed with unflinching devotion of all these types. The prize which is hardly won by the yogis is within your easy reach today. The most incomparable fruit of seeing me is that the soul attained its natural state. If you know everything about Janka's daughter, my good lady, tell me her news, O fair dame. Go to the Pampa lake, O Lord of the Raghus. There you will make friends with Sugriva. He will tell you everything, my lord. Rama, hero of the Raghulan, you are the steady resolves and know everything. Nevertheless, you ask me, bowing her head at the Lord's feet again and again, she lovingly related the whole story of what the Sikhs Matanga had told her and how eagerly she had watched his approach all the time. After telling the whole story, she gazed on the Lord's countenance and imprinted the image of his lotus feet on her heart, and casting her body in the fire of yoga, she entered Sri Hari's state wherefrom there is no returns. O man, abandon your varied activities, sins, and diverse creeds, which all give birth to sorrow, and with genuine faith, says Tulsidas, be devoted to the feet of the Shri Rama. The Lord comforted final battery even as a woman who was not only an outcast but a very mind of the sin. You seek happiness, my most foolish mind, by forgetting such a master. Sri Rama left even that forest and proceeded further. The two brothers were lions among men and possessed immeasurable strength. The Lord lamented like one smitten with pains of the separation. He narrated stories and had many a dialogue with Lakshmana. Lakshmana marked the beauty of the forest, whose heart will not be stirred at the sight. United with the mates, all the swarms of the birds and herds of the deers are reproaching me as it were. When the bucks see me and scampers away in fear, their mates would stop them, saying, "You have nothing to fear. You may enjoy yourself at will." O progeny of deers, he has come in search of the gold deer. The elephants would take their mates along with them, as it to teach me a lesson that a man should never leave his wife alone. The Sakar's lore, however thoroughly studied, must be gone through over and over again. A king, however well served, should never be depended upon, and a woman's scriptures and king, even though many cherished her in your bosom, is never thoroughly mastered. A woman scriptures and king, women scriptures and truly master. See, brothers, how pleasant the spring is, yet to me, bereft of my beloved, it is frightful. When the god of love found me for tortured by the separation, languishing and all alone, he rushed against me with the Vedant forest beasts and the birds for his army. He despised the wind, however, has seen me with my brothers, and on his report the mind-born Cupid had held up his advancing armies, and beside me, as it were, creepers have entwined themselves round gigantic trees, spreading as it were a variety of canopies in the skies. The platans and the stately palms are standing like beautiful pinions and standards. He alone, who is stout of heart, could help being fascinated by their sights. Trees of every description are adorned with the flowers of the various kinds, like warrior arrayed in all their different kinds of panoply. Other beautiful trees standing here and there look charming like champions separately encamped. The murmuring cuckoos are the excited elephants, herons, and rooks. His camels and the mules, peacocks, chakoras, and parrots. His noble war horses, the pigeon and the swan. His armed steeds, the partridge and the quails. His foot soldiers. But there is no describing the whole host of the Cupid. Mountain rocks are his chariots, the rills his cattle-tongues, the chatkas, the bards that utter his praises. The grulous bees are their trumpets, and the clarinets, and the soft, cool, and the fragrant breeze have come in the capacity of his ambassador, accompanied by the army, complete in all four limbs, that is, horses, the foot, the carrots, and the elephants. He goes about challenging to the combat. Lakshmana, they who remain firm even at the sight of the Cupid battle array are men that count in this world. His greatest strength lies in the woman. He alone who can escape her is a mighty champion. Brother, there are three evils most formidable of all: lust, anger, and greed. In any instance, they distract the mind of the hermits, who are the very repository of the wisdom. The weapons of the greeds are desire and hypocrisy, or lust, not by the woman, while anger's weapon is a harsh speech. So declare the great sages after deep thought. Sri Rama uttered Uma says Bhagwan Shiva is beyond the three gunas, Sattva, Rasa, and Tamsa, through the Lord of the animate and inanimate creations and the inner controller of all. By speaking as above, he demonstrated the miserable plight of the earthly lovers, and strengthen this passion in the mind of their wise. Anger, lust, greed, pride, and delusions, all these get eliminated through Sri Rama's grace. He who wins the favor of that divine pair is never deluded by his jugglery. Uma, I tell you my own realization, the only thing real in this worship of Sri Rama and whole world is a dream. The Lord then repaired to the shore of the deep and the beautiful lake known by the name of Pampa. Its water was limpid as the heart of the sands, and it has charming flight of the steps. Now, on all its four sides, beasts of the various kinds drank of its water wherever they listed, as it there was a crowd of the beggars ever present at the house of the generous man. Covered by the dense lotus leaves, the water could not be easily discerned, even as the attributeless Brahma is not perceived when the wheeled by the Maya ignorance. All the fishes that had their abode in the fathomless water of the lakes were uniformly happy, even as the virtues ever passed their days peacefully. Lotuses of the different colors has opened their petals, and swarms of the bees sweetly hummed. Swan and the water flows made such a noise as though they had burst into the Lord's praises the moment they saw him. Birds like the chakravaka and the herons were lovely beyond words. One could form an idea of their beauty only after seeing them. The voice of the beautiful bird was so captivating that it seemed they invited the wayfarer who passed by them. By the side of the lake, hermits had erected their thatched cottage. There were charming forest trees all around. The champaka, the bakula, the kadamba, the tamla, the patala, the panasa, the palasha, the mangoes, and many other varieties of trees had put forth new leaves and blossoms, and swarm of bees hummed on them. A delightful breeze, which was naturally cool, gentle, and fragrant, ever breathens there. The cuckoos coo so sweetly that their melody disturbs the hermits of their meditation. Weighted down with the lords of their fruits, all the fruit trees well nigh touch the grounds, even as the benevolent souls grow all the more humble on getting a large fortune. When the Sri Rama saw this most beautiful lake, he took a dip into it and felt supremely delighted. Seeing the pleasant shade of the safety trees, the Lord of Raghu sat in it with his younger brother. There all gods and the Sikhs came once more, and having hymns their praises returned to their several homes. The All Merciful sat in the most cheerful mood and discoursed with his younger brother delightful topics. When the Sikhs Narada saw the Lord suffering the pain of separation, he felt much perturbed at heart. It is the submission of my cause that the Lord is undergoing many hardships of an oppressive nature. Let me therefore go and see such a noble Lord, for such a opportunity may not present itself again. Reflecting thus, Narada went, lute in hands, to the spots where the Lord was sitting at ease. He fondly sang the soft voice exploit of Sri Rama's, dwelling upon them in all details. As he protested himself in the Lord lifted him up and held him in his embrace for a long time. After inquiring of his welfare, he seated him by his sides, while Lakshmana reverently leaved his feet. After much supplication, realizing that the Lord was pleased at heart, Nada joined his lotus palms and spoke as follows. Listen, O Lord of Raghu, generous by the nature as you are, you confer delightful boons that are unattainable as well as those that are attainable. Grant me, my master, only one boon that I ask to you, even though you already know it, even without my asking. Indwelling as you do the hearts of the all, you know my dispositions, dear Sikhs. Do I ever hide anything from my devotee? What object do I hold so dear, O Chief of the Sikhs, that you may not ask it for me? There is nothing which I may withhold from my votary. Never give up his beliefs even by mistakes. Then Narada gladly said, this is the boon I presumes to ask, even though my Lord had many names, each greater than the other, as the Vedas declares. Let the name Rama, my Lord, surpass all other names in exterminating the whole boards of the sins, even the flower clays and the entire folk of the birds. May the name Rama shines as the moons and the other names as so many stars in the cloudless sky of your devotee's heart during the full moon night of the devotion to you. The all merciful Lord of Raghu replied to the Lord, so be it. Thereupon Narada felt much delighted at heart and bowed at the Lord's feet. Seeing the Lord of the Raghu so highly pleased, Narada spoke against in the gentle tones. Listen, O Rama, when you impelled your Mayas, deluding potency and the infatuated me, O Lord of the Raghu, I wanted to marry. Why then did you not let me accomplish my desire? Listen, O Sikhs, I tell you with all the emphasis at my command that I always take care of those who worship me with undivided faith, even as the mother guards her child. If an infant child runs to catch hold to the fire or snakes, the mother holds it aside. When, however, her son has grown up, she loved him, no doubt, but no, not as before. The wise are like my grown up sons, while humble devotees are like my infant childs. A devotee depends on me, while the former, a wise man, depends on his own strength. And the both have to face enemies like lust and anger. Pondering thus, the prudent adore me and never take leave of devotion even after attaining wisdom. Lust, anger, greed, pride, etc. constitute the most powerful army of the ignorance. But among them all the fairest caste and the most troublesome is that incarnation of Maya, the Lord deluding potency called woman. Listen, O sakes, the Puranas, the Vedas, and saints declares that woman is like the vernal season to the forest of the ignorance. Nay, like the hot seasons, she dried up all the ponds and the lakes of the japa, the muttering of prayers, austerity, and the religious observance. Again, lust, anger, pride, and jealousy are so many frogs, as it were, like the rainy seasons. Woman is the only agency that gladdened them all. Even so, latent desire of the vicious type are like the bed of the lilies, to which, like the Atma, she is never ever agreeable. All the different virtues are like a bed of the lotuses, like the middle of the winter. Woman, who is the source of the base sensuous pleasure, blight them all. Again, the overgrown of the yavasa plant in the shape of the mindness flourish when the close of the winter in the shape of the woman appears. For oaths in the shape of since woman is a delightful night thick with darkness. Reason, strength, virtue, and truth are all so many fishes, as it were, and women so declare the wise is like a hook to catch them. A young woman is the root of all evil, a source of the torments, and the mind of all woes. Therefore, bring this mind to sakes. I prevented your marriage. Sri Ramayana. As the Sikhs listened to the delightful word of the Sri Ram, the Lord of Raghu, a thrill ran through his body and his eyes filled with the tears. He said to himself, "Tell me, is there any other master whose will not it is to show such attachment and fondness for his servants? Men who refuse to worship such a Lord, shaking of all delusions, are bankrupt of the wisdom, dull-witted and rash." The Sikhs Nata again reverently spoke to the Lord. "Listen, O Rama, who are well versed in the sacred role. Tell me, my Lord Raghuveera, hero of the Raghu line, the undistinguished mark of the saint, O dispeller of fear of the transmigration, I tell you, dear sakes, the quality of the saints, the virtue of which I tell you, dear sakes, the quality of the saints, by virtue of the distinct march of the saint, by virtue of which they hold me in subjection. They are master of the six passions: lust, anger, greed, infatuation, pride, and jealousy. Sinless, disinterested, firm, possessing nothing, pure both within and without, full of bliss of the boundless wisdom, desireless, moderate in diet, truthful, inspired, learned, and united with God, is circumspect, bestowing honor on others, free from pride, strong-minded, and highly conversant with the course of dharma, rightness. They are above of virtues, above of the sorrow of the world, and free from doubt. Nothing besides my lotus feet is dear to them, not even their body, nor their home. They blush to hear themselves praised, but feel much delighted to hear others' praises. Even minded and placid, they never abandon the right course. Glueless by nature and loving, they are given over to prayer, austerity, control of senses, self-denial, and religious observances, and undertake sacred woe. They are devoted to the feet of their Guru, Lord Govinda, Vishnu, and the Brahmans. They are full of the piety, forgiving, friendly to all, compassionate, cheerful under all circumstances, and sincerity devoted to my feet. They are further characterized by the discretion, modesty, knowledge of the truth relating to God, as well as by the correct knowledge of the Vedas and Puranas. They never take recourse of hypocrisy, pride, or arrogance, nor set their foot on the evil path even by the mistake. They are ever engaged in singing or hearing my praise stories, and are intent on doing good to the others without any consideration. In short, O good sakes, the quality of the saints are so numerous that they cannot be exhausted even by the Sharda, the goddess of speech, nor by the Vedas. Neither Sharda nor Shesha could tell them. Even as he heard this, the Sikhs Nardas clasped the Lord's lotus feet. In this way, the all-merciful Lord, the befriender of the meek, recounted with his own lips the virtues of his devotees. Narada, bowed his head at the Lord's feet again and again, and left for the abode of the Brahma, the Creator. Blessed are they, said Tulsidas, who, giving up all hopes, are steeped in love for Sri Hari. People who sings or hear the sanctifying praises of the Ravana's foes shall be rewarded with steadfast devotion to the Sri Ramas, even without dissipation, japa, or concentration of mind. The body of the young woman is like the flame of the candles. Be not a moth on it, O my mind, abandoning lust and pride. Worship Sri Rama, enjoy the company of the saints. Past 22 for a 30 days recitation. Sri Ramaya Namah. इति श्री रामचरितमानस से सकल कलिक लघु विध्वंसे तृतीय सोपान समाप्ता. The ends of the third ascents into the Mansa lake of the Sri Rama's exploits that eradicates all the impurities of the Kali age. Sri Ramaya Namah. Page number 728.